So we just got done watching some concert videos and stuff for Heather's channel. If you want to,
Shameless plug.
Yeah, if you want to check that out, linked in the description down below to her channel.
Hashtag totally an ad.
Hashtag
You're welcome, Heather.
Thanks.
Hashtag talking about Heather like she's not here.
Haha.
She's right there.
Yes, she is. So
I don't
anyway,
like hashtags. Anyway.
I decided that since we had one musical aficionado here,
I am also here.
Yeah. No. Well, the type of music. Well, I've wanted to, for a long time to do like concert videos and all that of like some of my favorite bands and everything. Okay. Ben, you're well versed in a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Music, in terms of like music and bands and everything, you're aware of a lot. You're aware of some, but in terms of this certain side of music, you are, for lack of a better term, I'm not going to say a layman, but
I mean, I know some.
What's your favorite band, Ben?
That is a very tough decision.
I agree.
But I'd say probably either the Blues Brothers, like OG Blues Brothers, or
Jake and Elwood.
Jake and Elwood, yes.
No,
or the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
So there you go.
So it's a little different than my
yes,
style.
a little
But
different.
I mean, I listen.
little.
Like, I don't know that I necessarily have too many like favorite bands, but I find songs that I like and then I listen to them.
Right.
So.
I do that too. That's respectable.
I mean, I've had some experience with like metal and such, but
well, you are aware of like bands like Metallica, Slayer, you know, the big four.
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, I'll say this: Punk Rock Elena. This band is a whole lot. Yeah, Punk Rock Elena. That's Heather.
Yep.
So
Me again.
Heather.
Yeah. Hi, me again. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still here.
So Heather.
God help us all.
This band is one of A7X's or Avenged Sevenfold. It's one of their biggest inspirations.
I had never heard of them.
You've never heard of Pantera?
Nope.
Pantera is a band.
Somehow I don't believe you.
Pantera?
Yeah.
Legit? Never?
You have to keep in mind that my actual favorite music is pop punk. So we're talking MCR, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, not necessarily Avenged Sevenfold. While I do like Avenged Sevenfold, it's not my top pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's not necessarily straight up your jam.
Well, okay. I'll give
it's
you.
good.
I'll give
Yeah.
you a little
Okay,
bit. I'll give you a
gotcha.
little bit of band history. I'll TLDR this as much as I can. Okay. So Pantera started out in 1981, and it started out primarily between two brothers, Vinnie Paul Abbott and Darrell Abbott, and they were really inspired by like hair metal at the time.
Okay.
But then, as the band went on, they discovered that they wanted that metal was actually shifting away from hair metal and was going more towards a heavy side, thrash metal. But instead of going pure thrash, they went with a guitar sound that was very distinctive, and it was called power metal.
Mm-hmm.
And they in the mid '80s they looked for a new lead singer that would fit this, and they got Phil Anselmo. Phil Anselmo has what you would call a lion's roar of a voice. The guy could, in a concert hall, yell, and everybody in the arena would hear him without a microphone.
Oh my.
That's pretty
Dang.
much the kind of voice this guy had. And he had a huge range and could scream and could sing rough and sing clean. And he had a very diverse voice. It's not as good now, but back then he was in his 20s, and now he's in his 40s, and he had very severe drug abuse when he was younger.
I mean, you know what they say, time wounds all heals.
I'm looking
Yes.
I'm looking at a song list, and I don't recognize any of these.
No, that's fine. This is one right here. This is just a basic introduction. This is when Pantera really started getting big in the early 90s. This was when they released their album Cowboys from Hell. There was one song called Domination that they did at the Monsters of Rock tour when they went to Russia. Now keep in mind, they're playing in front of around 1.5 million people.
And you said this was 1991.
Yes, 1991, right after the Iron Curtain fell in Russia. Russians were finally allowed to, attend concerts that they wanted and listen to the music that they wanted. no more of what the Russian government wanted them to listen to. Instead, this is what I want, and it's beautiful.
I'm glad that your approach was, I'm going to go look at the Wikipedia article. I do that too.
Well, anyway,
I'll
tell you a little bit of
it's not
I'll
just
tell you
me.
a little bit of a story after we're done with this video.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, this is Pantera's Domination.
Apparently, they describe themselves as a take no shit attitude band, by the way,
Pretty much, yeah.
which I respect so much.
Yeah, I buy
So
that.
yeah, this is Pantera Domination live in Russia.
Okay.
Live in Russia.
Oh, this is old as fuck. Okay.
Whoa.
Just their energy, dude.
Maybe I should take my glasses off and take advantage of this undercut.
Dude, the hair flipping thing doesn't work if you're bald.
No, he's headbanging, dude. He don't
Yeah,
give a fuck.
I know.
I have the hair for it. I just don't feel like it.
No, I'm with you.
I've seen this so many times. I love this. It's got probably my favorite guitar solo ever in it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, just Darrell goes nuts. Darrell's the guitarist up front. I love his guitar too, the Razorback.
Oh, yeah.
I love that guitar, Oh, the crowd, by the way, at one point the crowd got so large, in order to document it properly, they had a helicopter flying really low above the crowd.
Oh, dear.
Just so that they could document it. And also Rex Brown, the bassist, he's one of my favorite bassists too. I mean, he is fast on that thing with a pick.
They've had a song on Guitar Hero, haven't they?
Say what?
They've had a song on Guitar Hero, haven't they?
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think they had Cowboys from Hell on there at one point.
I can tell. I don't know how. I just know.
I think they also had Primal Concrete Sledge, which is another song that they did in Russia, and it like huge
That's a
reception.
hell of a song title.
Well, yeah, Primal Concrete Sledge. They wrote it about like one time when Phil got the shit kicked out of him one night after a show. Like he was sitting there on the ground. He was laying there on the ground on the concrete, and there was blood everywhere. And he was so like beaten up, but was so angry at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And he just wanted to take a sledgehammer to those assholes. That's what he recalled after he started talking to the band. It's like, I was laying there on the concrete and just had this primal rage to hit him with a sledgehammer. Primal Concrete Sledge. Here comes the solo. Dime's tone as well is like otherworldly. I mean, he had a tone that no one else could emulate. I mean, no one knew how he did it.
I have heard of them before, specifically from Guitar Hero Warriors as well. I just discovered it.
Okay.
God, man.
Dear Lord.
That dual bend that he did there. I love that
Good
sound.
night.
I have to say, I think Frank Iero is more intense than this, but this solo is more intense than Frank Iero's solo.
Yeah.
But as far as energy, Frank Iero has some beats. I'm sorry.
No,
No, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Well, Frank goes all over the place.
Frank breaks his guitars on accident, does flips while it's playing. Like, it's just ridiculous. By the way, for watchers, Frank Iero is from My Chemical Romance. Not
Listen to the crowd.
Surprising absolutely no one.
Listen to the crowd. They're just like,
Also, just like, you notice the police up front. You're just like, what is happening? Dear God.
The guy was a wizard on that thing, man.
Now, is it just because they're live, or do they not have a very prominent bass?
Oh, they had a huge bass in the early '90s, but there was a bad thing that I'll tell you about what happened that really killed the Pantera fan base.
No, actual bass.
Huh?
Bass.
No, like bass guitar.
Oh yeah.
I just don't hear it. Is it
Well,
because
it's
live?
because Rex used a very similar distortion to Dime, and
they blended a little
well,
bit.
they blended, but it was when it needed to blend. But Rex would take that distortion off whenever he wanted to stand out and wanted to have a more punchy bass sound instead of a blending one.
So, the reason I noticed bass is because I've always been told that MCR was a shit band because they didn't have a prominent bass. And so now, just to be cocky when I'm listening to a new band, I look for a bass.
But
No, that's fair.
This right here, you can actually hear the bass in this one
Okay.
really well. This is one of my favorite songs there. It's called 5 Minutes Alone. And it was written about a guy who wrote a letter to Phil saying that if I had 5 minutes alone with you, I would kick the shit out of you.
No.
And Phil wrote this song back saying, "Motherfucker, you don't want 5 minutes alone with me. You don't know what I do."
And it's just like, hey, thanks for the song idea.
Yeah, and it's got probably the best. It's probably got some of the best like imagery for guitar and bass ever.
Yeah. The song's titled 5 Minutes Alone, but the video's
It's
6
6
minutes
minutes.
long.
Yeah, like these shots right here of the bass and everything.
Oh yeah, that was a very like 90s imagery, like the crazy. Yeah, there it is. The crazy, like, you essentially take a person in single pose and just mess with the lights around them.
Yeah,
That's
traditional '90s fluff,
That's
but
real 90s.
But yeah, well, okay. The funny thing about I'm not say okay. In all throughout the '90s, Pantera pretty much like ripped up the metal, like the underground metal scene, and like they were everybody's underground metal heroes. And then they had an album that went #1 that nobody expected. I mean, every critic said, "How the hell is this #1?" And Pantera just responded by just saying, "Because it kicks fucking ass. What else?"
And it's just like,
It's cool.
yeah, because and the one that went #1, a lot of people don't consider their best album. Their albums that everybody remembers: Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven, The Great Southern Trendkill, and Reinventing the Steel. Those are the ones that those 5 albums are considered like the classic era of Pantera. That didn't mean to rhyme.
the classic Pantera, if you will.
Yeah, the classic Pantera, if you will. And in 2001, yeah.
Heather's just like, my mom says I need to go home now.
Shut up. But anyway, what happened was in 2000.
Sorry, Heather.
Well, in 2001, Phil Anselmo was really bad with heroin addiction and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He actually OD'd during a concert and died on stage, and they brought him back.
I thought it ended right there. I was like, what?
No.
No, I would have. I
he
wouldn't have been
flatlined.
surprised if it ended right there.
No,
and it's like, and they brought him back. No.
Yeah, he flatlined for a solid 4 minutes, and they brought him back.
Whoa.
Fuck.
And he was laying in the hospital bed, and the guys asked him, "Why didn't you tell us about this? Why didn't you tell us about your
Okay,
back
thank
pain?"
God they didn't continue the show.
No, hell no.
Okay.
Hell no. How are they supposed to continue a show?
They just get back up and keep going.
Well,
People
yeah.
are crazy, man.
Well, I know.
I wouldn't have put it past
I mean, he's not
anybody.
G.G. Allen. I mean, he's not going
It's like,
to die
whoa.
on stage, get back up, go back out on stage and do it, and then go back to his room, overdose, and die, which that's what G.G. Allen did. But anyway, what happened after that was that Darrell Abbott and Vinnie Paul, everyone calls him. He changed his name to Dimebag Darrell just because, for the hell of it. He literally, that was what everyone wanted to call him. Call him just Dime. But whenever I say Dime, I mean Darrell.
Okay.
So Dime went.
Thank you for translating that. I appreciate that.
So Dime went to Phil and said, "Hey man, why didn't you tell us about this?" And Phil was just very very dismissive about it. He was just like, "No, I don't. This is my problem. I don't want anyone else to know about it."
No.
No.
You died on stage. Everybody fucking knows now.
Yeah.
I don't think you can keep this to yourself anymore.
No. And Phil was very dismissive and pushed the Abbotts away, and and then Vinny and Darrell were just like, "Hey, you know what? I'm sick of waiting on this guy. Let's start a new band." and they started a band called Damage Plan. And this pissed off a lot of Pantera's fan base because they thought that they were abandoning what Pantera was. And then it pretty much devolved into a huge knife fight in the tabloids, in the heavy metal tabloids, a hit parader and all that between the Abbotts and Phil Anselmo.
Would you have been surprised if he said it was an actual knife fight? Because I don't think I would have been surprised if he said
No, I
it was
wouldn't have
an
been
actual
surprised
knife
either.
fight.
But it literally turned into a word knife fight between the two. Like Phil would say one thing, the Abbotts would say another, and then Phil said one thing in an interview. He said it off the cuff about he'd been
interviews.
He'd been drinking a little bit, and he said it off the cuff. He's just like, there were days I just thought that the Abbotts just needed to be beaten severely, and then they said, and then Dime wrote a personal letter to Phil, and he pretty much said, throughout the years you were my brother and all this and all that, and the letter ended with, "No longer will you trample through my peaceful mind," signed Darrell Abbott, and then that was pretty much it.
That's a good line.
Yeah,
that's a really good line.
Yeah, and Dime was a good lyricist as well. But anyway, he put that out there, and they both went their separate ways. Phil Anselmo did his stuff with Superjoint Ritual and Down, the bands that he formed, and then Darrell and Vinny went on with Damage Plan, and then in 2004, I'll never forget the day that it happened. It was December 8th, 2004, same day John Lennon died, except 24 years later. There was a show at the Almarosa in Ohio, and whilst Damage Plan was playing their set, I think it was the second song, a young man named Nathan Gale jumped up on stage and gunned down Darrell Abbott, shot him in the back of the head 6 times, and killed several other people, including several other roadies for Damage Plan who had been roadies for Pantera.
Do they know why?
No, because Nathaniel Gale was holding it was Donnie, I think it was Donnie Wires Barnes, who was the guitar tech for Pantera for God knows how long. He shot Donnie in the chest twice and was holding him down with the gun against his head. And then James Myers, I believe is his name. He was the cop who arrived on the scene first. He arrived with a shotgun, and they pointed out where he was. And before Nathan Gale could see, the officer coming, the officer pulled up the shotgun and then shot him and killed him. And nobody knows why Nathan Gale did what he did, because if he wouldn't have killed him, then he would have killed Donnie Barnes.
Yeah,
and that was and then after, as a matter of fact, right after everything was resolved, Vinny Abbott was wondering where the hell Darrell was and all this, and he goes over to where they had Darrell on the floor, and he died. He was dead.
Yeah.
6 bullets to the back of the head, that'll do it to anybody. And Darrell was only 38. Darrell was 38 years old, and when they buried him, all these people came out. Eddie Van Halen himself showed up to the funeral, and not only did he bring like people were putting stuff in the coffin to go with him. Like they had 12 bottles of Crown Royal, which was his favorite. He had a specific drink he had called the Black Tooth Grin.
You need this more than I do, dude.
Yeah, he had a favorite drink he called the Black Tooth Grin. He had 2 or 3 of them before every time he went out to play, and anyway, they had bottles of Crown Royal and all this in there. And inside of the casket, Eddie Van Halen comes up, and the guitar from the Van Halen album, Van Halen 2, the yellow one with the white stripes, he had that guitar up on stage, and he put it in the casket with him.
Jeez.
And and actually Terry Blaze, the original lead singer for Pantera, said that if you would have told Darrell back then that the moment you die, Eddie Van Halen's going to put that guitar in your casket with you, Darrell would have said, "Shoot me now."
Jesus.
Yeah, and anyway, after the whole funeral and after everybody said their thanks and goodbyes and everything, Phil wanted to come to the funeral, but Rita, Darrell's fiance at the time, and Vinny told him no, and Phil put out a video apologizing and saying everything, and it took, I think it was 3 or 4 years after Darrell died, for them to finally forgive Phil, and then Phil finally got went to visit the grave and everything, and it was closure. And then there's been talk of a Pantera, like a Pantera reunion with I think Zakk Wylde on guitar instead of Darrell, which Zakk Wylde in his own right's a truly brilliant guitarist. But honestly, I would like to see a reunion, maybe 1 year. But here's the reason I'm telling that story is because I was friends with two brothers, Jesse and Daniel Counts, and they both were huge Pantera fans. When Pantera broke up, it was a heartbreaker to them. And then when they found out that Damage Plan was coming to Ohio, pretty close to the closest to where they were, had their little tour, they did like a 10-show tour, and it was pretty much in the Northeast. And the closest they were coming, they wanted to get tickets, but they were sold out. And when we found out that was the show that we were going to go to, my heart sank because I was going to go with them. I had the money ready to go, ready to buy the tickets, but they were already sold out, and that we couldn't go. And it was just,
That might be for the best.
Yeah, a little bit.
No, my heart stopped when I found that out. Because I was upset because, we had school that day, and I was, like, trying to talk to my mom. I was just like, I talked to my mom beforehand. It was like, look, there's this concert coming on, and, hey, I'll get ahead in school. I'll find out what work I have to finish early. I have to go to this. And my mom was ready to sign off on it and everything, but then we find out that the tickets are all sold out. And there was actually one of my favorite UFC fighters, Matt Brown, was there that night. He was there that night, and he tried to rush the stage and get Nathan Gale off the stage, but thankfully one of his friends tackled him because he didn't know that Gale had more ammunition. He thought he had one clip for the pistol, and that was it. But turns out he had four spare clips on him, and he was ready to do as much damage as he could.
Never assume that a person has just one magazine.
Yeah. And even if you count all the bullets, always be cautious that there's always that one extra in the chamber.
Look, here's the thing. If somebody asks you, did I shoot 5 shots or 6? Assume 5. Always assume 5.
Yeah, but yeah, I told you all that story so I could tell you that, and you see, still thinking about it. It's like, it's been 14, it's been solid 13 years since then. And I think about where I was then and where I am now, and it's just a world of difference. I mean, back then I didn't know, I had no direction where I wanted to go. Now I know exactly what I want to do. And
well, I mean, you did have one direction. You wanted to go to Ohio.
As much as I love talking about public shootings,
let's sway away from that.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not a phobia or anything.
I mean, it's.
Well, it's because your first experience was very poor.
Well, we should move on anyway because we got a stream to do.
Yeah, we do.
Have a stream.
All right,
Yes,
so yeah, that's gonna do it,
I'm
everybody.
Very excited about.
So that's gonna do it. I guess until next time. Signing off. I'm Nate.
I'm Ben.
I'm Heather.
And this is Chico.
And we'll see you later, everyone. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.